is now finished. I will attempt to pick this up so you can see it. Good job your things are right. So it is very long, goes all the way down to there. So on me it touches the floor. Hi guys, so I'm just going to redo a video that I done back when I first started my channel, which is the granny square. This one's the magic loop, or the magic ring, or the magic circle, whatever you want to call it, but it's going to be the one where you can pull the centre really tight and closed. The chain start one I will do a separate video for. So I've just got some chunky yarn and a 6mm hook so that you can see easier, but obviously you'll use whatever your pattern's calling for. So first we're going to start by making the loop. So hold your yarn so your tail end is down across your hand, and then take your working end and just wrap it around 2 fingers so it hooks over. Now grab both of those 2 strands so you can take your fingers out and then find a comfortable way to hold it. So you've just got this little loop in your yarn, really simple loop. So grab your yarn however you feel comfortable keeping your tension. I wrap it around my fingers and then just hold it so that these, if I hold it with my thumb and my middle finger, just to hold it in place. And you're going to take your hook, pop it through that loop, yarn over, grab your yarn there and pull it through. That just starts off your circle. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 2. So that's yarn over and pull through your loop, yarn over and pull through your loop. Some people like to chain 3, it's a personal preference. I find 2 is high enough, but if you're quite a tight crocheter you might want to chain 3 at the beginning of these rows just to give you the extra height you'll need to match the stitch that you're doing. What we're going to be doing now is a UK treble stitch, a US double stitch, which is a double crochet or a treble crochet. So we're going to yarn over our hook, then we're going to take our hook through that loop that we've created, and we're going to yarn over again. So that's hooking that yarn, and we're going to pull that back through the loop. You've now got 3 loops on your hook. So we're going to yarn over and we're going to pull through the first 2, leaving 2 on your hook. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through the remaining 2. So now with that chain 2 or chain 3, whichever you've done, and that first stitch, we now have 2 of the first 3 that we need. So we're going to do this again. We're going to yarn over, go through the loop, yarn over, come back out through the loop, then yarn over and go through the first 2, yarn over and go through the next 2. If you need help with your stitches, I do have other videos teaching you how to do these stitches, so do check them out. This is purely about how to do the granny square rather than how to do the stitch. Okay, so now we've got our first 3, we need to create our corner space. So we're just going to chain 1. Again, some people like to chain 2 or chain 3, it depends on how tight your tension is. I find chain 1 leaves it looking nice enough for me, so that's what I do. Now we're going to repeat the process. We want 3 double crochets, well that's 3 UK treble crochets in the loop again. So yarn over, go through the loop, yarn over, come back out, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. I'm going to do that twice more to give our next set of 3. Now we've got our next set of 3, we want to create the next corner again, so we're just going to yarn over and pull through our loop, so that's a chain 1. And then we're going to create another set of 3, so another set of 3 double crochets or UK treble crochets in that same loop. We're always working into the loop here. The first round is entirely through the loop. Try not to get your yarn tangled up. So we've done 2, I'm going to do our 3rd one there. So now we have 3 lots of 3, so we create another corner there, so that's a chain 1. We do a final lot of 3 so that we have 4, just like you would on a square. So 3 double crochets or 3 treble crochets. That's our 4th. Now we're going to chain 1 again. That creates our 4th corner. So we now have 4 sides and 4 corners, just like you do on a square. And so we're going to take our tail end and we're just going to pull it. Hold your stitches down a little so it doesn't twist. You want to just pull it so it stays nice and straight. And pull it as tight as you can. Really close up that circle. And now we're going to slip stitch into the top of our chain 2 or chain 3, whichever one you did first. And to do that you want to look for your V in the stitch. So your V has got 2 legs, and we're just going to slip stitch into there, which is yarn over, pull through that stitch and pull through the loop on your hook. And that creates your first round of your granny square. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 corners and 4 sides, and 1, 2, 3, 4 corners. That's made up of our chain stitches and our double crochet stitches. Okay guys, so now we're going to do the second round of the granny square. Now some people work around without turning, and that's an acceptable way to do them, but I find it tends to create your granny squares to skew a little, so I always turn my work. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take the piece and we're just going to flip it over, and we're now going to be working around the back. This also creates a completely reversible granny square. The other way you have a right side and a wrong way. By turning over you're actually creating a reversible one. So what we want to work into is that chain 1 that we created in between the sets of 3. So if you look here, we have 3 double crochets or treble crochets, and we have 3 here. So this gap here is our chain 1 space, and that's what we're going to be working into. So just go in and slip stitch into it, which is go through the space, yarn over, pull through and pull through the loop. So it's just now you're sitting snugly in that space, and we're going to chain 2. Again, if you're tighter you might want to chain 3, and we're going to create 3 a set of 3 again. So now we've got our chain, we're going to create 2 more stitches of double crochet or UK treble crochet to fit into this for the next corner. So remember, if you can't remember how to do these stitches, I do have videos that show more in depth on how to create the double crochet or the treble crochet. So now what we've created here is the first corner for the next round. So we're going to leave just this as a half corner, and we will finish off the corner when we get round to the end. Again, some people like to create the corner in one go, but I find it's easier to end up in the chain space if you do the remaining corner at the end. So after we've done these double crochets, we're going to go into the next corner. Again, some people like to chain in between, and if you're a tight crocheter then do a chain at this point so that you have a bigger gap between your corners, but I don't worry about a chain for these bits. So we're going to go look for your 3 treble crochets or your 3 double crochets and find that chain space that you've created, and so we're going to yarn over, go through, yarn over, pull back through the 2 and 2 for our double crochets, and then we're going to do 3 double crochets or 3 treble crochets in this chain space. If you need to slow down, YouTube does have the ability to slow down the videos. If you go into the settings, you can make the speed 1.5, 1.75 and 2 times slower, I think it is. So that will help if you need it to go slower. So now we've done our 3, we're going to chain 1, because that's our corner we're creating. Remember, we need to chain 1 in our corner, and we're going to go back in to this chain 1 space we've done down here. So where we've just done these 3 double crochets or 3 trebles, we're going to create another 3 in there, and this is going to complete our corner for this section. So 3 double crochets into that same space we were doing the first 3 in just now, the second 3, sorry. And now we have a corner that has 3 double crochets or treble crochets, a chain 1 space and another 3, and that's our corner. So now we're going to move on to the next corner. So find your 3 each side, find that chain 1 gap that you've got there, and we're going to work into there. So we're going to do the same. We're going to do 3 double crochets. Remember, if you're a tight crocheter, add in a chain between these, but I find that it sits nicer if you don't. You don't get quite as much rippling if you don't put a chain in between the walls. Walls, I mean by these 3, I just call them the walls, the corners and the walls. It's the sides. Okay, so we've done our 3, so again we're going to do that chain 1 to create that corner without pulling your hook out. That creates our corner, and then we do we do 3 double crochets or 3 treble crochets into that same chain space we just worked in. And that's created our second corner. So we have 3 double crochets, a chain 1 space and 3 more double crochets, or that's treble crochet for UK. So again, we're going to move on to that next corner. So find your chain 1 space and create 3 double crochets or 3 treble crochets in that chain 1 space. Once you've done your 3 double crochets or 3 treble crochets, you're going to again create that chain 1 to create that corner and do your next 3 in that same space. Okay, so now we have 3 complete corners and a half a corner. So we're going to finish off this round by completing that corner we started off at the beginning. So find that chain space where we've got our 3 beginning ones in, and we're going to do 3 double crochets, 3 treble crochets into that space. And again we're going to do our chain 1 to create that corner, and then we're going to slip stitch into the top of your beginning chain. So just go into the top, remember, get both legs, and then yarn over, pull through both loops, and there you have round 2 of your granny square. So we have a complete corner on each side. That's 3 treble crochets or double crochets, a chain 1 and 3 more on each section, so 4 corners, and you have your little gaps. That's where your next sides will be on your next round, which is where you've skipped over and just gone to the corners. Okay, so that's round 2. We'll move on to round 3. Okay, so now we're going to do round 3. So we're going to do what we did last time, and we're going to turn so that we're working back the opposite way. So just flip your work over and find that chain space and just slip stitch in. So go through the chain space, yarn over, and then pull through both, and that just sits you nicely into that chain space. Then we're going to do the same thing again. So we're going to chain 2 or 3 if that's what you feel more comfortable with. I'm going to create 2 double crochets or 2 treble crochets in this chain space, and that's creating the first part of the corner for this round. Remember, we're going to only do half of the corner and we'll finish it off when we get round there. So we're going to move on. So now we've got onto the row where we're going to have sides that we're going to fill in. So before we'd skip straight over to the corner, but as you can see we now have a gap here between the 2 corners that we're going to fill in. So we're just going to go into that space that's naturally created. If you've done a chain space, you might have a slightly bigger space, but I prefer not to have a chain space because it's not too big, it stops it wrinkling. So it depends on whether you did a chain or not to how big your space is, but it is basically after the second half of the 3 double crochets for this corner and before the first half of the 3 double crochets for this corner. So we're just going to do 3 double crochets or 3 treble crochets in to that space. And this is just creating the first official side on a granny square. See how that's now, we have part done corner and we have our first side of 3 double crochet, and we only do 3 double crochet. We're now going to move on to the corner again, so we're going to do our 3 double crochet in that chain 1 space that we create for the corner. And that's 3 treble crochet for UK. And then remember, we do a chain 1 to create that corner space, and then we're going to do 3 double crochets or 3 treble crochets into that same space. If you need help remembering which is double crochets, which is treble crochets, your US and your UK terms, I do sell badges that you can, and stickers that you can attach somewhere for you to remember, to a project bag or something. So do check out my site if you want to have a badge to help you remember which stitches go to which UK or US terms. But here we go, so this is our first corner that's complete on this round. So we now have another side one to do. We have our gap here. So again, we're just going to do 3 double crochets or 3 treble crochets into that gap. And that creates our second side of our square. At which point we're going to now move on to the next corner. So we have a part corner done, one side done, one corner done, and then the second side done. So now we move on to the corner again. So find that chain 1 space and do 3 double crochets, 3 treble crochets into that space. Now after you've done your 3 double crochets, you're going to do that chain 1 to create that corner space, and do 3 more treble crochets or double crochets into that chain space we just worked into. Again, don't forget you can slow down the video if you need this done slower. Now we've created our next corner, we're going to go on to the next side. Each round you do, you should have an equal amount of sides per side you do. So like I have 1 on here, 1 on here, we'll have 1 here, and we'll have 1 over this side, and in the next round we'll have 2, which I will explain. But so I'm just going to do this side. We want 3 double crochets or 3 treble crochets into that third side. And then we're going to move on to that corner again, so find that chain 1 space and do your 3 double crochets or 3 treble crochets into it. Create your chain 1 for that corner space and do your remaining 3 treble crochets or double crochets in to that chain 1 space we were working in. Okay, so now we have 3 complete corners and 3 complete sides. We're going to do the last side here and then finish off that corner. So 3 double crochets or treble crochets into this side space. And then find that chain 1 space where the first part of the corner is already done, and we're going to go into there and do 3 double crochets and finish off this corner and the round. So I've done 3 double crochets. Don't forget to do your chain 1 to create that corner space before slip stitching into the top of the chain from that round. And there we have completed granny square that now has 3 rounds. Now from this point onwards it's basically going to be words. It's basically you're going to be repeating this round. So for every corner you will do 3 double crochets, a chain 1 space and 3 double crochets, or 3 treble if you're UK. And then for every side you will create 3 double crochets, 3 treble crochets in the gap between the 3 treble crochets. So here we now have 2 gaps between the corners, because we've got a corner here and a corner here, but because we've done our side here, we now have created 2 gaps between the corners. So this next round will have 2 sides, and that will be the same on each side. As you can see, the gaps naturally form. If you've done a chain between them, you'll have a bigger gap. As I said, I don't do a chain because I think it helps the square lay flatter. If you don't do a chain, you can often get your squares to be a little wavy because there's just too many stitches in there. So don't forget, for the next round you flip your work over. Again, this is to prevent the square going wonky, because it forms these little squares on squares through, but if you don't flip, they start to go a little wonky and you start to get off shapes. It's still squarish shape, but it's more warped, whereas if you flip your work each time, it tends to keep it much straighter, and it makes the work reversible. So your blanket will be completely reversible once you've woven your end there. Nobody will be able to tell which side's which because they actually look the same both sides. Okay, so again for this next round we're going to slip stitch into that chain space just to put us directly in that corner, and again we're going to chain 2 up, or 3 if you're doing 3 chains, and we're going to create 2 double crochets, that's 2 treble crochets into that space to create the first part of the corner, and then we're going to move straight on to the first side. So we find that gap that's between the 2 lots of treble double crochets or treble crochets, and we're going to go and create 3 double or 3 treble crochets in that gap between them. And that's our first side done, but as you can see we have another gap before we get to the corner, so we can create a second side there, and that's with 3 double crochet or 3 treble crochet corners, 3 treble crochet stitches. That creates our second side, and we now move on to that corner. So that's find the chain 1 space for the corner and do 3 double crochet stitches, do our chain 1 to create that space in the corner that we always need, and do 3 more treble crochets or double crochets into that same chain space that we were just working in. And we have our first completed corner of the round. We're going to go and do our sides again. Remember, we've got 2 sides to do this time, so just do 3 double crochets in that first gap, move straight on and do 3 double crochets in that second gap, and then move straight on to the corner, so find that chain 1 space and do 3 double crochets into that chain 1 space, and then do a chain 1 to create the new space for the new corner, and do 3 double crochets straight back into that space you're just working in. That's your next corner completed. So we're going to move on and do the next 2 sides. So move straight on and do 3 double crochets or 3 treble crochets into the side spaces. That's one done. Move on to the next side, next space, sorry. Done your 3 double crochets or your 3 treble crochets there, so I'm going to move on to the next corner. So find that chain 1 space and do your 3 double crochets or your 3 treble crochets. And create your chain 1 space to create the next corner and go back in and do 3 treble crochets or 3 double crochets in that same space you were just working in. That's your next corner done. So now all we've got left to do is our 2 remaining sides and finishing off that last corner, which was the one we started on. So 3 double crochets or 3 treble crochets in the first space. Move straight on and do 3 double crochets in the second space. And now it's time to finish off that corner, so find that chain 1 space we started in and do your remaining 3 double crochets or 3 treble crochets. And don't forget to do your chain 1 to create that corner and then slip stitch into the top of your chain. And that's round 4 done. So if I just turn over so we can get the tail end out of the way and then you can see easier. Okay, so at this point on, by the 4th row, just give my little corners a little tug, hopefully you can see them better. We have our 4 corners and we now have 2 side stitches, 2 side sets on each one. There should always be the same amount on each side. And what you can see now is there's now 3 spaces between your corners. See 1, 2 and 3, and that's the same on every side. 3 spaces, and this will happen on every row. You'll get 1 extra space each side and you'll just do 3 lots of the 3 double crochets for your sides and do your corner and then move up. So each time you go a new round you'll add in an extra side and that will help it grow. So I hope that's helpful. If I'll just quickly show you how to finish off. Once you're slipped in to your end of your row there, just yarn over, pull through, and then if I can just break the yarn because I forgot my scissors. Nope, I'm not strong enough, hold on. Scissors are always helpful, aren't they? So cut your yarn and you're just going to pull that straight through and give it a good yank so it's nice and secure, and then you'll just weave in your ends. But that is how you create your basic first granny square. So I hope that's really helpful. You see with the magic ring you can pull it in much tighter and get a much nice smaller circle. In thinner yarns you can actually get that to close up completely. So it's a really nice one to do if you want to keep a nice compact stitch. But I hope that's helped. Any questions, pop them down in the comments and I will try my best to answer. Otherwise I will see you all soon. You take care. Bye.